December. Social Security update shocks millions of seniors. What if you woke up one morning and discovered that your Social Security check had quietly jumped from under $2,000 to well over $3,000 a month? For a small but very specific group of American seniors, that is exactly what happened during this December Social Security update, and yet for millions of others, nothing changed at all. No letter, no increase, no explanation. This sharp contrast has left seniors across the country confused, frustrated, and questioning whether they were left out or simply misinformed. Over the past few weeks, reports have circulated showing monthly Social Security payments rising as high as $3,559 compared to the more common $1,976 many retirees still receive. Naturally, this sparked a wave of disbelief. Some seniors assumed it was fake news, others believed the system had failed them once again, but the truth is far more complicated and far more important than a rumor or a mistake. According to a formal update submitted to Congress by the Social Security Administration, more than $17 billion has already been distributed under a newly recalculated payment system. Yes, the increases are real. Yes, they are lawful. And yes, they are already reaching certain retirees. But here's the critical detail most headlines leave out. This increase was never meant for everyone. In fact, nearly 97% of Americans will see no change at all from this update. Only about 3.1 million people nationwide qualify. That small percentage explains why so many seniors feel left in the dark. When one neighbor sees a dramatic increase and another sees nothing, confusion is inevitable, especially when no clear explanation arrives in the mail. This December update is tied to a long-standing issue in the Social Security system, one that dates back decades and has quietly affected government workers, their spouses, and even widows and widowers. For years, many of these individuals were told, "You're not eligible," and they accepted that answer as final. What most never realized is that the rules behind those decisions have now changed. In this video series, we're slowing everything down and breaking it apart step by step in plain English. We'll explain who qualifies, who does not, and why some seniors are suddenly receiving thousands more each year. Most importantly, we'll show you how to find out whether you or someone you love may be entitled to money that has been missing for years. Because when it comes to Social Security, silence doesn't always mean no. Sometimes it simply means no one told you to look again. The Social Security Fairness Act. The law most seniors were never told about. To understand why some seniors are suddenly receiving much larger Social Security checks, we need to talk about one law that has quietly reshaped the system, the Social Security Fairness Act. The name alone sounds complicated, and for decades, that confusion worked against the very people the law was meant to protect. For generations, millions of Americans worked in jobs where Social Security taxes were not deducted from their paychecks. These were not fringe workers. They were teachers, firefighters, police officers, public safety workers, and longtime state or local government employees. Instead of Social Security, they paid into separate pension systems created by their employers. On paper, that arrangement made sense. But when these workers later qualified for Social Security, either through part-time work, second careers, or spousal benefits, the system applied two little-known rules, WEP and GPO, short for the Windfall Elimination Provision and the Government Pension Offset. These rules reduced Social Security benefits often sharply. In some cases, checks were cut by hundreds of dollars per month. The logic was simple but flawed. The system assumed these workers were already being helped by a pension, so their Social Security benefit should be reduced to prevent what lawmakers once viewed as an unfair advantage. But over time, it became clear that many seniors were being penalized, not protected. People who paid into Social Security for years, sometimes decades, were receiving far less than private sector workers with similar earnings histories. Even worse, their spouses and survivors were often denied benefits altogether simply because the worker's record had been reduced. After years of pressure from retirees and advocacy groups, Congress finally acted. Earlier this year, lawmakers eliminated WEP and GPO, effectively removing the reductions that had distorted benefits for decades. The goal was straightforward: allow affected retirees to receive the full Social Security amount they actually earned. However, this change applied only to a very specific group. That's why millions of seniors saw no increase at all. The Fairness Act was never a universal raise. It was a correction, one aimed at fixing an old imbalance in the system. And that distinction matters, Because just because most people didn't qualify doesn't mean the law isn't real. It means the law was targeted. And for those it applies to, the financial impact can be life-changing. In the next part, we'll identify exactly who qualifies under this new rule and why many eligible seniors still don't realize they're on the list. Who actually qualifies for the higher Social Security payments? Now that we understand what the Social Security Fairness Act changed, the next question is the one seniors care about most. Who actually qualifies for these higher Social Security payments, and why so many people still aren't sure if they're included? First, let's be very clear. These increases are not based on income level, age alone, or how long you've been retired. They are based almost entirely on your work history or the work history of your spouse or former spouse. The primary group receiving recalculated payments consists of individuals who worked in non-Social Security covered jobs for a portion of their careers. These are jobs where workers paid into a state, county, or local pension system instead of Social Security. Common examples include public school teachers, firefighters, police officers, transit workers, and certain government employees. If someone worked their entire career in one of these roles and never paid into Social Security at all, they generally do not qualify for Social Security benefits. However, many people had mixed careers. They may have spent years in government service and later worked in the private sector. Others worked part-time or seasonal jobs where Social Security taxes were withheld. Those are the individuals most affected by the old reductions, and now the biggest beneficiaries of the new law. Under the previous system, WEP and GPO reduced or eliminated benefits for these workers. Under the new rules, those reductions are gone. That means Social Security is now recalculating benefits as if those penalties never existed. But here's where confusion sets in. Qualification does not happen evenly or visibly. Some seniors saw increases automatically because Social Security already had complete records. Others were skipped because files were incomplete, outdated, or flagged under old rules that no longer apply. And then there's a group many people never think about: spouses and former spouses. If you were married to someone who worked in a non-covered government job, even if you never worked in one yourself, you may still qualify. This includes current spouses, widows, widowers, and even divorced spouses, as long as the marriage met certain duration requirements. Many of these individuals were told years ago that they didn't qualify, and they believed it, but those answers were based on rules that no longer exist. That's why the most common mistake seniors make today is assuming that an old denial is still valid. In many cases, it is not. In the next part, we'll look at why spouses, widows, and divorced spouses may actually be the group with the most to gain, and why thousands are still missing out. Why spouses and widows may be the most overlooked group. When most people hear about higher Social Security payments, they immediately think about the workers themselves, but according to experts who help seniors navigate benefits every day, the group missing out the most right now is not the retirees who work those government jobs. It is their spouses, widows, widowers, and divorced spouses. For decades, many of these individuals were told a single sentence that quietly changed their lives: you are not eligible. And because Social Security rules are complex and intimidating, most never question that answer again. Here's what almost no one explained at the time. Those denials were often not based on the spouse's own eligibility, but on reductions applied to the worker's record under the old WEP and GPO rules. When the worker's benefit was reduced, spousal and survivor benefits were reduced or eliminated along with it. Now that those reductions are gone, the math has changed completely. Consider a widow who called Social Security 15 years ago after losing her husband, a public school teacher. She was told she didn't qualify for survivor benefits because his Social Security record had been reduced. She accepted that answer and learned to live on a much smaller check. Under today's rules, that same widow could be entitled to up to 100% of her spouse's recalculated benefit. That difference can mean hundreds or even thousands of dollars every month. The same applies to divorced spouses. If a marriage lasted at least 10 years, the former spouse may qualify for benefits based on that work record, even if the divorce happened decades ago. Many were denied simply because the worker's benefit was reduced at the time. That barrier no longer exists. What makes this especially painful is that Social Security does not automatically notify these individuals. There is no letter saying, "You may now qualify." If you were denied years ago, the system often assumes your case is closed, unless you reopen it. As a result, thousands of seniors are still struggling financially, while money they earned indirectly through a spouse's lifetime of work remains unclaimed. This is not about luck. It is not about timing. It is about knowing that the rules changed and knowing that old answers may no longer be correct. In the next part, we'll explain why some payments jumped as high as $3,559 and how Social Security calculates these dramatic increases. How Social Security calculates jumps up to $3,559 per month. One of the biggest questions seniors are asking right now is simple. How can a Social Security check jump from under $2,000 to more than $3,500 a month? To many retirees, that kind of increase feels impossible or too good to be true. But when you understand how Social Security actually calculates benefits, the numbers begin to make sense. At the heart of the system is something called the replacement rate. Social Security was designed to replace a portion of your working income, not all of it. Lower income workers receive a higher replacement rate, sometimes as much as 90% of their pre-retirement earnings. Higher income workers receive a lower percentage, often closer to 35 or 40%. This structure has been in place since the program began in 1935. For most Americans, that formula works consistently. But for decades, workers who also received pensions from jobs that did not pay into Social Security were treated differently. When those workers qualified for Social Security, the system assumed they were already receiving extra retirement support elsewhere. As a result, it applied automatic reductions through WEP and GPO. Those reductions often lowered monthly benefits by hundreds of dollars, sometimes more. In many cases, the final amount bore little resemblance to what the worker would have received if the standard formula had been applied. When the Social Security Fairness Act eliminated those reductions, the system had to recalculate benefits from the ground up. Instead of using a modified formula, Social Security applied the same calculation used for private sector workers with similar earnings histories. That recalculation is why some checks jumped from around $1,976 to $3,559 per month. This was not a bonus. It was not a retroactive gift. It was the removal of a penalty that had been built into the math for decades. However, these recalculations only happen smoothly when Social Security has complete and accurate records. When records are missing or outdated, especially in cases involving older marriages, name changes, or government service, people are often skipped. That's why some seniors saw immediate increases while others who should qualify saw nothing at all. The takeaway is this. These higher payments reflect what should have been paid all along under today's rules. And if your record was ever affected by WEP or GPO, the numbers may still need to be reviewed. In the next part, we'll talk about why so many eligible seniors are still missing out and what causes their cases to fall through the cracks. Why thousands of eligible seniors are still missing out. If the law has changed and the money is real, the next obvious question is this. Why are so many eligible seniors still not receiving these higher payments? The answer lies in how Social Security operates and in how long many cases have been considered closed. Social Security relies heavily on existing records. When benefits are recalculated automatically, the system uses the information already on file. If those records are complete and clearly show a history affected by WEP or GPO, adjustments often happen without any action required from the retiree. But for many seniors, especially those with long work histories or multiple marriages, those records are incomplete, outdated, or flagged under old rules. Once a case is denied, it often stays denied unless someone actively asks for a review. This is especially true for spouses, widows, and divorced spouses. Many of these individuals applied years or even decades ago. At the time, the denial was technically correct under the old rules. But the system does not automatically revisit those decisions when the law changes. Another major issue is communication. Social Security does not send out broad notices saying, "You may now qualify." Instead, information spreads unevenly through news reports, advocacy groups, or word of mouth. That means seniors who are not online or who don't follow benefit updates closely are far more likely to be left behind. There is also fear. Many seniors hesitate to contact Social Security because they worry about making a mistake, losing benefits, or being overwhelmed by paperwork. Some assume that if Social Security wanted them to receive more, the agency would contact them directly. Unfortunately, that assumption often leads to inaction and missed income. The reality is this: Social Security responds to requests, not assumptions. If no one asks for a review, the system usually moves on. This does not mean the agency is acting unfairly. It means the system is built around rules and processes that require individuals to re-engage when circumstances change. That's why the seniors who benefit most from this update are often the ones who reopen old cases, ask targeted questions, and request reviews under the new law. In the next part, we'll explain exactly how to contact Social Security the right way, what to say, and how to avoid the most common mistakes seniors make during these calls. How to contact Social Security and request a proper benefits review. For many seniors, the most intimidating part of this entire process is not eligibility, and it's making the call. The fear of saying the wrong thing, getting lost in technical language, or being rushed off the phone keeps thousands of people from ever asking for a review. But the truth is, this conversation can be simple if you approach it the right way. When you contact Social Security, the first and most important step is how you frame your request. Do not ask general questions like, "Did my check go up?" or "Do I qualify for more money?" Those questions often lead to quick answers based on old records. Instead, clearly state this sentence: I am requesting a review of my benefits under the Social Security Fairness Act. I want to confirm that WEP and GPO no longer apply to my case. Those two terms, WEP and GPO, immediately signal to the representative that your case may fall under the new rules. You do not need to explain the law in detail. Simply mentioning those terms directs them to the correct review process. If your eligibility is based on a spouse or former spouse, say so clearly. Explain whether you are currently married, widowed, or divorced, and how long the marriage lasted. Even approximate dates are usually enough to begin the search. Many seniors worry they don't have enough information, especially if the marriage occurred decades ago. Here's an important reassurance. You do not need your spouse's Social Security number to start the review. If you have it, that helps. But Social Security can also search records using a full name, date of birth, and place of birth. Another critical detail to ask about is the primary insurance amount, often called the PIA. This is the benefit amount calculated at full retirement age before deductions like Medicare premiums. The PIA is what determines eligibility for spousal and survivor benefits, not the smaller net amount deposited each month. If the representative begins discussing your current payment only, pause and ask directly, "Can you please tell me the PIA on this record?" Finally, take notes. Write down the date of the call, the name of the representative, and what was discussed. If the answer is unclear or incomplete, you have every right to call again. This is not a favor. This is a review of benefits you earned under the law. In the next part, we'll address the most common questions and misunderstandings seniors have, including remarriage, past denials, and whether these payments must ever be paid back. Common questions, misunderstandings, and fears. Seniors have, as news of higher Social Security payments spreads, many seniors find themselves asking the same questions, often quietly, often with concern. Let's address the most common misunderstandings clearly, calmly, and without legal jargon. One of the first questions is, what if I was denied years ago? A denial from 10, 15, or even 20 years ago does not automatically apply today. Those decisions were based on rules that no longer exist. If WEP or GPO played any role in that denial, your eligibility may have changed. Another common concern is remarriage. Many people were told that remarriage permanently ends eligibility for benefits on a former spouse's record. That is not always true. If your former spouse has passed away and you remarried after age 60, you may still qualify for survivor benefits. This surprises many seniors and is one of the most misunderstood Social Security rules. Others ask, what if my spouse is still alive? In that case, spousal benefits are generally limited to up to 50% of the worker's primary insurance amount. If the spouse has passed away, survivor benefits may reach up to 100% of the recalculated amount. That difference alone can be financially life-changing. Some seniors worry about repayment. These recalculated payments are not loans or overpayments. They are lawful adjustments designed to provide the correct benefit amount going forward. There is no expectation that the money will be paid back. Medicare also causes confusion. While Medicare premiums may be deducted from your monthly check, Medicare does not affect whether you qualify for the recalculated benefit itself. It only affects the net amount you receive after deductions. Another fear is that calling Social Security could trigger a review that reduces benefits. While any review carries a small level of scrutiny, requesting a Fairness Act review specifically targets the removal of reductions, not new penalties. The biggest misunderstanding of all is this: if I were eligible, Social Security would have told me. Unfortunately, that is not how the system works. Many of the largest increases happen only after individuals request a review. Understanding these rules removes fear, and fear is often the biggest obstacle keeping seniors from claiming what they earned. In the final part, we'll bring everything together and outline exactly what steps seniors should take next and why even one phone call can change everything. Final steps seniors should take and why this moment matters. At this point, the most important question is not whether these higher Social Security payments exist. We know they do. The real question is what you should do next and why acting now matters more than many seniors realize. The first step is quiet reflection. Take a moment to think about your own work history or the history of a spouse or former spouse. Did they work as a teacher, firefighter, police officer, or in a state, county, or city job where Social Security taxes were not deducted? Did your career include a mix of government and private sector work? If the answer might be yes, that alone is reason enough to look deeper. The second step is action. Not paperwork, not legal filings, just a phone call. Contact Social Security and request a benefits review under the Social Security Fairness Act. Ask specifically whether WEP or GPO ever applied to your case or to a spouse's record. You do not need perfect information, you only need to ask the right question. The third step is persistence. If the first answer feels rushed or unclear, call again. Different representatives often see cases differently, especially when records are old or complex. Asking for clarity is not being difficult, it is being responsible. Many seniors hesitate because they believe it's too late, but there is no expiration date on accuracy. If your benefit was calculated incorrectly under rules that no longer exist, correcting that mistake is not only allowed, it is expected. What makes this moment especially important is timing. As records age and documents become harder to retrieve, reviewing cases sooner rather than later reduces delays. And while these recalculated benefits are not a temporary program, the opportunity to reclaim missed income depends on awareness. We have seen seniors gain an extra $500, $1,000, even $2,000 per month simply because they asked for a review. We have also seen heartbreak, people who struggled unnecessarily while benefits sat untouched due to outdated assumptions. These payments are not handouts. They are earned benefits built through years of service, work, and contribution, sometimes directly, sometimes through a spouse. And no senior should be left in the dark because a rule changed quietly. If this information helped you feel more confident, consider sharing it with someone who may need it. A neighbor, a family member, a friend at church. One conversation can change a life. Because when it comes to Social Security, knowledge isn't just power, it's peace of mind.